Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second webinar on Make a Movie. And today's is all about ideas. So, for ideas, I suppose it's very important to realize that what we do in ideas, we could go on for hours on what we could discuss, what type of idea you could use. Your idea is very important, and a lot of times it's very personal to you. You pick something that you are interested in, something that you want to do a movie about. If you are interested in it, if you like the subject, if you really think this is going to be fun, then you're going to make it a lot better than if you feel, oh, I have to do this. So always try and pick something you want to do. Start with an idea you know well, and don't make it too complicated. If a movie starts getting very complicated, it's hard for the person watching to understand and to know what's going on. And in that way, they're not as interested. So keep it nice and simple, but keep it clever, and it can be really, really good. So you can cover a lot of different subjects or areas of interest at the same time. If we're at home and we're making one all about football, let's say, well, we have geography with our local area. We could have one, we could show all the flowers that are in our garden. We have art when we're doing our storyboard. We have Irish or English when we're writing up our script. We have PE. We have SPHE with my talents or with being healthy and breathing. So you can see already how many subjects can be covered. And that's only one little idea. We could do so much more with it. And of course, through every movie, there's always going to be drama. So you can pick a story you know already. You can do something like Little Red Riding Hood, but you could put a different ending or a different perspective. Instead of being all about how poor Little Red Riding Hood was attacked by the wolf, you could be the wolf and how Little Red Riding Hood tricked you. Anything like that. It makes it a good one, good story, and people already know the story, so they want to see what happens. So in that way, it can be a great idea. Of course, then you can do something from a book, from a movie, a TV show, a poem, or a song. You make it your own. If you've seen one of the Harry Potter movies, we don't want it to be exactly like that Harry Potter movie. We want you to make it a little bit different, because then you are being creative. You're putting in your own little bit. You can't include all of the story. And the reason I say that is the movies we're making here are only going to be a few minutes long. If you take a whole movie that's in the cinema, some of them can be 2-3 hours long. We aren't going to have that much time to make a movie. These ones take months and months to make with loads of people working on it at the same time. So you have to summarize. You have to make this big idea much smaller, but also make sure you don't leave the main parts out. It's a talent, and it might take a little bit of redrafting to do, but I'm sure if you really put your mind to it, you decide what are the best bits. And again, this is where your storyboard will help you. Each little picture shows you what you want in it, and you can make your script from there. So if you want to do the storyboard first, that's what I would do. Then you make your own script, like I just said, and you show what you think is important. Remember with your script, it's not just a speech, it's also direction, where the person is, what they're doing, what they're looking at. This helps when you're trying to record for you to remember exactly what you're going to do. You can do the sequel, prequel, you could add in a missing part. So if you've done a story about, let's say, one of David Walliams' books, Gangster Granny, and we do all of that book. Well, what about when Gangster Granny was young? When she wasn't a granny itself? What about when she was stealing all of these jewels when she was much younger? Well, couldn't you make that story? And then that fits in to the start of Gangster Granny. Little bits like that can make it fun, and no one has done them before, so therefore that's your story to tell. Again, you don't have to tell the entire story. If you're doing the story of the Three Little Pigs, you could focus just on the brick house and just how panicked they were. You wouldn't have to do the other two houses beforehand. You started, and in your story or in your script, you would say, well, Wolf, you may have gotten my two brothers or my two sisters, but you're not going to get me. And then people know what part of the story they're picking up on. So only one line of the script has shown us that. And then if you're really, really creative and you're thinking, I'd love to write my own story just about this. Brilliant. Well, that's the best story, because you can be sure no one has done that before. And therefore, this is going to be a really good movie that people are going to look forward to see. So, some ideas for what we do when we're sitting at home. Now, some movies can be made in just a one room. If you think about that story with the three little pigs, they may be inside and outside the house, but it doesn't move all that much, does it? We have maybe the front door, outside the front door, and maybe coming down the chimney to the big pot. But we could do a different way about that because we obviously can't have someone coming down the chimney. So think about that now. How would I make that story without the wolf coming down the chimney? Well, could I have him running around to the back door? Therefore, I'm only using the front door and the back door. That's not a lot of my house. Sometimes you could make it smaller again. Maybe he's going to try and come in the window beside the front door. And then you're just in that one place in the hall. So the first thing you should do is you should take a very vital movie role at the start. Be a location scout. What that means is you go around all the areas you know you're allowed to film and see, what could I use them for? How could this become this area? Sometimes you think, oh, this would be a really good location for my movie if I only had a background for a kitchen. Or this would be a really good area, but I need a swing set. So what do we do then? Can we find ways around it? Can we problem solve and think, how do I get around that? Or can we change it so we don't need the swing set or we don't need the kitchen anymore? That's what you have to do. And that's what you do in movies. Sometimes they want to go to a certain location and it's not available. So they have to be able to change. You have to adapt to your environment. So if location is an issue, what do? Well, you could zoom right in on the person. If we zoom right in on me, it doesn't really matter what's going on in the background. And therefore, it's not as important. You could pretend you're somewhere. You could make a poster just this size here, and you could paint it to make it look like a room. You could find a really big cardboard box and find a place to put it up. And that could be your kitchen. That could be your swing set. And once you were finished with it, you could paint over it again and do something else. So in that way, we're making lots of different ideas work for us. So you can design your own sets. Now, you might need help from your mom or dad or someone in the house with you, but it can be done. You just have to be smart about it and think, how can I do it? Props can help. If I'm meant to be on the swings, will I have any props? No. But if I'm in the kitchen, couldn't I have a knife, a fork, a wooden spoon, a mixing bowl, something like that, that makes it look like I'm in the kitchen, even if I'm not? Because the last point here, don't disturb people working. If someone is maybe studying or if they're trying to do their work and you are making noise everywhere, everyone is not going to be very happy with you. So you try and find a place where you can do what you want without disturbing anyone else. So when we have a great idea, well, if we don't, what do we do? Okay, well, like I said, it depends on what you have or what you can make around you. If you can make yourself into a robot using boxes of cardboard, then maybe you could do a movie with that. If you don't, how are you going to make yourself into a robot? Could you use tin foil? Could you find silver clothes or grey clothes and make them look like a robot? Could you pretend you're a real human-looking robot? All of these things, it's all about how I get around a problem. What do you know already? If I know lots and lots of stuff about flowers, wouldn't it be really interesting for me to do a movie all about the different flowers? Or to do it as if I was saving the bees, or if I was giving it on a documentary like David Attenborough, telling all about the different wildlife, and I was the narrator, and I was filming all the different bits. Wouldn't that be really interesting? What do I like? If I really, really like playing with Lego, can I use my Lego characters and can I create sets? Of course you can. And we'll be doing one of our webinars on animation and stop-go animation and Lego animation to show you how to do that. But maybe you know how to do it already. So if that's what you want to do, then you don't have to worry about characters. You make your own. What can you show us? If you are talking all about the 1916 Rising, can you show us what life was like back then? If you can't, how are you going to make the movie? Are you going to pretend you were part of the 1916 Rising? Are you going to pretend that you're back in 1916? It's whatever you want. You just need to be very clear on what your idea is. And then it's important to realize there are so many types of movies. Comedies, which are funny and involve a lot of people talking and making jokes or falling over. A documentary, which is very factual and gives people lots of information. An interview. Now, this could be a lovely one if you had a parent or a grandparent who has a really interesting story, or you want to tell what's the difference when they were in school and you're in school now. An interview like that, loads of people love to hear them. An action movie where lots of things happen and maybe you're on your bike and there's a chase. A sport movie where you're doing all skills, or you're teaching, or you're doing like a 10-minute exercise lesson, like 10 at 10 or something like that. Adventure, where they have to go and rescue someone. Historic, all about the world wars, or the first man on the moon, or the first woman on the moon, or anything like that. Local interest. I think because we have to stay so close to our house, this could be a really good one as well. If there's maybe a castle beside you, or an old well, or if you know that your house is really old, or something that maybe people don't know about, it could be really good for people to see. And because everyone's stuck inside, people will love to see movies this time, and you can send them on the internet. They don't have to go from house to house. Or a personal movie, all about me. It's completely up to you. So what I've done here is I've given lots of ideas, and I've broken them down into different subjects, just so that you could see how they could be done. Again, if I start explaining all these different ones, you might have different ideas, and that's brilliant, because it doesn't mean my idea is better than yours, or my idea is the only idea. So life in 2020, a time capsule, I think that could be an interesting one. If we show this is all what my life is like now, and I don't just mean now that we're stuck at home, I mean if an alien came, or if someone, a time traveler came and said, what is life like in 2020? You could say, well, this is what it's like, and this is what we do, and this is what we have. And if someone was to look at that 20 years ago, or in another 20 years, would it be very different? If it was all about the signs of the season, well, what season are we in now? We're kind of coming to the end of spring, start of summer. How do we know? Well, the leaves are finally coming back on the trees. Most of them are out. The flowers are blooming. We see lots of lambs out in the fields. We've got bees buzzing everywhere. How can I show all of that? Then music. We could do a music video for a song. Again, this one can be a little bit complicated because copyright issues. That means somebody already owns the song. But as long as you're not putting it on the internet, you can do it for now. It's that for any competitions, we could never use someone else's song. We'd have to make our own song, which is really fun in itself. But maybe that could be a really good activity for you. If you were to write your own song, make your music, and then make a music video for it. I think that could be one of the best ones we could do here. You could do it all about different, we've seen lots of skill videos and different football players show us what to do. Maybe you can make your own, but you're thinking about it. It's not just make the video and show what I can do. You must write your script. You must decide what you're going to do. You use your storyboard. You have all your different camera shots, which is the next webinar, and you bring it all together in a really good movie. Then we could do one all about my friends or my talents, or if you live on a farm, about farm safety. That could be a really important one for people to see. Then the science one. If you want to be a wacky scientist and do all sorts of science experiments, and you have a table and you have it, couldn't that be a really fun one to do? And you could teach others how to do the experiments as well. You could show people how to do different art. You could do maths. You can do weather. You can do anything. But remember, they're just specific ones under the subjects. There's really fun ones as well, like somebody stole your favorite teddy and you now have to be a detective and go and find them. And you're looking everywhere for them. And there's all suspense and there's tension and you think you're going to get it back, but you don't. And then what do you do now? And then you're really worried, are you ever going to get it back? And we don't know what's going to happen. That can be a really good movie in itself. But that doesn't go under any subject, but we can bring lots of the different subjects into it. So remember, people can use their imagination. You don't have to be in Hogwarts to do a Harry Potter movie. You can be in your back garden and everyone can imagine you're there. If your acting is really good and if you think, what props can I use to make it even better? You can add writing. On the movies, you can put in subtitles, you can put in little bits to explain where you are, what year it is, or you can put a voiceover like a narrator to tell someone what's happening. Keep your idea simple and manageable. Keep it as something you know you're going to be able to do. You don't want to get to a part of a movie where you decided you were going to be invisible, but still there, and now you don't realize how to do it. Now, that is something we can do, and it's not impossible. But other ones where you're supposed to be flying through the sky, that's a little bit more difficult to do. So maybe think, how can I skip that bit? Or how can I make it look like I flew even when I didn't, in a safe way? Because we cannot do anything that's going to end up with us in hospital or at the doctor's. Use as much detail as possible when planning. The more you plan, the more you write down, the less you have to think about when you go out to film. And that's always what you want. You don't want to have any problems when you're going out. Your idea is yours. Like I said, we don't just copy someone else's idea word for word. You make your own little bit of it. And again, you write down any ideas you have. At any time, even halfway through the movie, if you come up with a new idea, write it down in case you forget it. So that is the end of the second webinar, and our next webinar is going to be all about the different shots we use in movies. Slán Aggie.